Hi guys, welcome in here to Rover Sports. This is my response to the Arizona Cardinals selecting Cliff Kingsbury as their head football coach. This is my reaction to Arizona signing Cliff Kingsbury as their head football coach. I believe that signing Cliff Kingsbury is a good decision by the Arizona Cardinals because Cliff Kingsbury knows about offense. Cliff Kingsbury was hired by Bill Belichick. Cliff Kingsbury is a friend of Tom Brady's. Cliff Kingsbury was at Texas Tech, and they've had prolific offenses with Patrick Mahomes, with Davis Webb, with Baker Mayfield. Cliff Kingsbury is a good offensive coach. He knows how to coach offensive football. He has good ideas when it comes down to coaching offense. Cliff Kingsbury is a guy that knows the quarterback position. He played quarterback at Texas Tech. And the thing about Kingsbury is he was in the Big 12. I'm going to tell you the positives about Cliff Kingsbury. The positives about Cliff are that Cliff is a very laid-back guy. He's a cool guy. He gets along with the offense. He gets along with recruits. He is a cool customer. Cliff Kingsbury will be able to get along with quarterbacks, and he will be able to get along with Josh Rosen. There's a chance that the Arizona Cardinals are prolific. He'll be getting along with Fitzgerald. He'll come up with great concepts. You know, the thing is about Kingsbury is that he's able to stretch the field on you vertically through his concepts. So there's going to be long throws going all over the field. There's going to be underneath stuff. They're going to be able to run the football. So Cliff Kingsbury is going to put up points. He's going to put up a lot of points. And in the NFL, you need that. And here's my argument for why Cliff Kingsbury is going to work. Because Cliff Kingsbury understands the college game. And basically, the college game is like the pro game. The Kansas City Chiefs changed their offense to go and support college tendencies. The Chicago Bears were on the cutting edge of offense, and they needed to... the Chicago Bears changed their offense to meet the standards of Oregon Ducks and to meet the standard of college football. How many times have you heard that the game on Saturday is creeping into the game on Sunday? And Cliff Kingsbury's at the very edge of that. I said that he had elite offenses at Texas Tech, right? You know, elite offenses. So I'm going to get to my negatives of Cliff Kingsbury, but those are the positives about Cliff Kingsbury. He's a great communicator, a very good hard worker, a guy that people respect, a guy who's a hard-working guy. And this is a guy that can stand up in front of a room and can sell a message. So he's young, which is also a benefit. He's young and in very good health. That's a key too. Cliff Kingsbury will be attractive for free agents to want to play for him because he's young. He has a cool personality. He gets along with the players. He's a player's coach and he's a good teacher. That's why he was able to teach Mahomes how to play football. He's also a good talent evaluator. He let Baker Mayfield come on as a walk-on. He got Davis Webb from Prosper, Texas. He went out and got Mahomes. And he saw the talent of Mahomes before anybody could see the talent of Patrick Mahomes. So this is a guy that's well-liked in the coaching fraternity. And Cliff Kingsbury is young and talented and knows offensive football. Here are the negatives, and here's where people are going to have questions with Kingsbury. Baker Mayfield didn't like him, and Baker Mayfield left Texas Tech. And the way I can counter that is Davis Webb outplayed Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield has gotten a lot better since he left Texas Tech. Baker Mayfield had the job, but then Davis Webb played brilliantly. He was the Holiday Bowl MVP. They went 7-5, 8-5, and 1. The thing about Cliff Kingsbury is that when you have a very up-tempo offenses, your defenses are usually going to suck. And in the Big 12, his defenses sucked until he got David Gibbs in there as the defensive coordinator. His defenses were awful until he got Coach Gibbs in there. And the thing is, he then spent more time recruiting the defense. So then he usually ran the aerial raid system, but then what ended up happening was Cliff Kingsbury then ended up having to hire David Gibbs, right, from Texas Tech. And then he changed his identity from we want to score a lot of points to we want to now play a lot of defense and not outscore people, and we want to be more balanced and run the ball a little bit more. And that's kind of what Texas Tech did, in the years following Kingsbury with McLean, Carter, and all the other, and that quarterback Nick Shimanek for that was an Iowa transfer. The thing is about Cliff Kingsbury is that those defenses were terrible. They recruited very poorly defensively. They didn't spend any time on defense. It was all about offense. And also the culture of Texas Tech was terrible. He had trouble getting guys to Lubbock. Guys would get in trouble all the time at Texas Tech. There was no real camaraderie amongst the people that went to Texas Tech. His locker rooms weren't that close with one another, and there was no defense to speak of at all. So that is the knock on him, is that he was an average coach in the Big 12 with terrible defenses that would always get outscored, and they would always lose to Texas. They would always lose to Oklahoma State, and they would also lose often to Art Briles and Baylor. Who else? They would lose to TCU quite frequently, to Gary Patterson's team. The teams that they would beat Iowa State before Matt Campbell was able to get there. They would beat Kansas. Kansas State was an iffy game, but they sometimes would beat Kansas State. And then in the non-con, they play about 3 cupcakes. So then you get to about 6 to 8 wins, but your guaranteed losses are Texas, Oklahoma State, and TCU. So there you have 4 wins right off the jump. Then Baylor with Art Briles would have lost. So now you're at 5 losses. So, the thing is with Cliff Kingsbury is he had no defense. But here's my argument about why he might be good in the NFL level. Sean McVay has no defense at all. Coach Sean McVay, 0 impact on the defense. Kyle Shanahan has no impact on the defense whatsoever. Doug Peterson does not involve himself with the defense at all. McVay, Shanahan, Matt Nagy, that's all Vic Fangio does is defense. That's all Fangio does. Matt Nagy analyzes it better. He knows what's going on with the defensive system, but that's all Ryan Pace, and that's all Vic Fangio. So the idea that you need a coach to handle defense, or you need a coach to be in there and to understand defense, that's not exactly present, because it's like you have co-head coaches, Robert Saleh and Kyle Shanahan. Wade Phillips is a co-head coach to Sean McVay, and Vic Fangio is a co-head coach to Matt Nagy. The thing is about defensive coordinators is that you could have a Wade Phillips that chooses to be a defensive coordinator his whole life. You could have a Robert Saleh that wants to just be a defensive coordinator. Freaking Mike Pettin said, I don't want to be a head coach anymore. But when you hire a defensive head coach and you bring in a talented offensive coordinator, even if that offensive coordinator is average or not that great, their ass is gone the next year. Case in point, Tennessee Titans, Matt LaFleur already gone. Brian Dable, if he rocks it out another year, he's gone. Todd Monken, an extremely talented coordinator, he will be gone if you hire a defensive coordinator, because these offensive guys want to be head football coaches. And defensive coordinators often are content not being the head of the ship. Just like a Greg Williams, a career defensive coordinator. You can find a defensive coordinator easily, like a Rod Marinelli, that'll stay. Like a Dick LeBeau, that'll stay. But finding an offensive guy that's brilliant to stay is a rarity. And Pete Carmichael has Sean Payton. So, when's the last time you saw a great defensive coach and a brilliant offensive coordinator, and he had no aspirations to be the head coach? Heck, even Kevin Stefanski called games for 3 weeks. And he is already getting offered, and he's already getting coaching interviews. And he didn't even coach that well in those 3 weeks. So that's why you hire an offensive coordinator. Unless the defensive coordinator is so incredible, is such an incredible leader of men, that he will change the whole thing around. And that's what I believe Tomlin's able to do. That's what Chris Richard's able to do. That's what maybe Matt Eberflus will be able to do. Vic Fangio is so brilliant. He might be such a brilliant leader, but I know for a fact Chris Richard is a brilliant leader. The thing about Cliff Kingsbury is Cliff Kingsbury will get along with Josh Rosen well. Josh Rosen's a difficult guy to get along with, but I think Cliff Kingsbury will do a decent job getting along with him. Cliff Kingsbury is as cool of a teacher as there is to have. Maybe Davis Webb will decide to go off with his old buddy and will compete for the job with Josh Rosen. The problem is Davis Webb has already sat behind a rookie quarterback. Josh Rosen was used as the 10th pick in the first round. Josh Rosen has a huge arm, has a lot of talent, probably more talented throwing the ball than Davis Webb. I believe Davis Webb, from a mental perspective, from a leadership perspective, is better. But is Cliff Kingsbury going to give Davis Webb the opportunity to start? And is Davis Webb going to go into that situation thinking he'll be that good to unseat Josh Rosen? That remains to be seen, and that'll require some conversations with Cliff Kingsbury, his best friend. The point is, in Denver, Davis Webb has a much better chance to start. There's disadvantages to Arizona. The Arizona fans are not like the Denver fans. Denver has a much bigger fan base, so when Case Keenum sucks, you always hear the backup quarterback getting clamored for, getting a huge push. Heck, it helped out Chad Kelly a lot that in the preseason he played well, and the Denver faithful wanted Chad Kelly to start a lot of games. For a backup quarterback, that's great. I think Davis Webb is more talented than Case Keenum, and I believe that he can win that job in that big market. So I think Denver's leading the contest right now. If he gets along with Darrell Bevell, I could see Davis Webb going to Jacksonville. But Cliff Kingsbury is literally Webb's best friend in the coaching fraternity. And I think that it will be very enticing for Webb to help out Cliff Kingsbury and for Kingsbury to assess whether Webb should be his guy for the next 15 years. You know, I know that you used the 10th pick on Josh Rosen, but you also, there's picks all the time that bust in the NFL draft. There's Vita Vea might not be that good. He was the 13th pick in the draft. Marcus Davenport was the 13th pick. He might not even be that great. Colton Miller was the 15th pick in the draft. We're not sure if Colton Miller's going to be any good. So Tremaine Edmonds looks good. It looks like it was a pretty good draft, when you look at the draft. But there's always picks like DJ Moore. You really think DJ Moore's going to be that great? He was like the 24th pick, only 14 picks after Josh Rosen, as Rosen was picking at the 10th pick. All the Cardinals did was move up 5 slots to get Josh Rosen. That's all they did, and then they just swapped like second and third rounders. So if they want to cut bait with Josh Rosen and hire Davis Webb and have Davis Webb as the starter, I think that if I were Cliff Kingsbury, I would have Davis Webb as the starter because Webb knows the NFL. He knows the NFL game. He's played 3 years in the NFL. He knows the Giants system. He knows the Jets system. So he knows aerial raid concepts, he knows pro style, he knows everything, and he'll come up with great plays to teach Cliff Kingsbury. And also, Davis Webb will outwork anyone in that building, and Davis Webb will be brilliant against coverages. Him and Cliff will work very, very well together. They will be at the hip on every single decision, and that is why I think that will be wise for the Arizona Cardinals to look to get rid of Josh Rosen and in-state Davis Webb. But the thing is about Webb is that I don't know if Arizona will have the balls to move on from Josh Rosen. Maybe Davis Webb doesn't go there at all, or maybe Josh Rosen ends up being very good with Cliff Kingsbury. Obviously, Josh Rosen starting next year is probably the odds-on favorite. With Davis Webb coming in as a backup is a possibility. The chances that Webb beats out Josh Rosen and Cliff Kingsbury has the balls to tell Steve Keim that he wants to work with Webb and have Josh Rosen be on the bench or possibly traded, those odds I know are very, very slim. But I'm just pointing out what I would maybe do in this situation. The thing about Cliff Kingsbury is he's not a great motivator. He's a decent leader, but he's not a great motivator. He's very, very quiet. He's a very quiet guy. Who knows how this culture will be different in Arizona? He's never coached it down at the NFL level, so he has no NFL experience really at all other than working with the New England Patriots. His defenses suck. He's not great at the end of games. He's not great at inspiring and building a team together. But overall, he's an exciting young offensive mind. And for the Arizona Cardinals, I think it was a pretty good hire. I think it's an entertaining hire. I think that he's pretty damn good. I think it actually might end up being a better hire than Zach Taylor. It has a very good chance to be successful, but the defense might absolutely be terrible. So I don't think that this is a home run hire. For the Arizona Cardinals, I think it's an okay hire. I think that this team will be about 7-8 wins. I think Cliff Kingsbury will be pretty decent, but I don't think that this hire is a brilliant hire. I'm going to give the hire, though. I really don't hate it. It has great potential. It's a lot of fun hiring Cliff Kingsbury. He's young. He's cool. He's Arizona cool. People are going to want to play for him. His offenses are going to be great, but the defensive coordinator is a must-have. I'm going to give this hire honestly a B to a B-plus hire. I do like this hire by Arizona. It's fun. It's not a flashy place, and Arizona will at least keep Cliff Kingsbury for about 3 years before it doesn't work. But this will help out Josh Rosen. It'll help out David Johnson. It'll help out Larry Fitzgerald. It'll help out the other wide receivers that they do have on that roster, like J.J. Nelson or whoever the heck they have. It'll help the tight ends. And the point is that at Texas Tech, the defensive players were so bad. But here, you are playing with NFL caliber defensive players with an NFL caliber coordinator. Because at Texas Tech, their defensive players were all 3 and 2 stars, and they were terrible. But now in the NFL, everybody is good on the defensive side of the football. So your defenses are not going to completely suck. You're not going to be the worst defense ever, because Cliff Kingsbury always held up his own on the offensive side of the football. But defensively, he was always just getting dusted because they had horrible recruiting defensively and because they had no identity, terrible coordinator hires, and they did not know how to recruit and play as a team. So it's up to Steve Keim Kingsbury needs a lot of help. He might be a good play caller, but that's all he is. He needs to have a brilliant staff around him. He's not the motivator Sean McVay is. He's not Shanahan either, because those guys have been in the NFL. Their dads and grandfathers have been in the NFL. McVay knows the NFL game. McVay's also a much better motivator. Kyle Shanahan is a much better play caller than Cliff Kingsbury. Matt Nagy, for that example, was in the NFL for years under Andy Reid. Kingsbury has no NFL guy. So that's why it's more risky. That's why it's far from an A hire. It really could fail. But if he has a good defensive coordinator, if he has that marriage, It is all possible. And Steve Keim drafted from Little Northern Iowa and Cedar Falls. He drafted David Johnson. He got Larry Fitzgerald to come here. He signed Wisenhunt and Kurt Warner. He signed Steve Breston. He brought in Chandler Jones. He drafted Patrick Peterson, Buda Baker from the University of Washington. This roster has talent. And this Arizona Cardinals team has had talent. They are the worst of the worst. They are not an ideal job. They have a small market in a very competitive division. And they're the bottom of the bottom. So overall, if Cliff Kingsbury were going to the Jets or he were going to a big market where Cliff Kingsbury is a very laid-back guy, Phoenix is perfect. Perfect city, perfect for his personality. You won't have to deal with the media too much. It won't be too overwhelming. It won't be too crazy. For a guy that's barely been in the NFL, Arizona is a perfect destination. The nightlife there is fantastic. And I think the hire could work. So I'm going to give it a B or a B+. I'll give it a B because there's a huge risk that the defensive coordinator's not very good. He doesn't know the NFL landscape. He might not like working with Rosen or whatever. And you know what might end up happening? He's not a great leader, not a great motivator. There are some red flags for sure. Texas Tech was not very consistent. But he's a good offensive coordinator. He knows what he's doing. He's cool. Free agents will want to play for him. I think he is a very, very good play caller. And you see in the NFL that the college game goes right to the NFL. You see that he works well with quarterback play. I think it's a good hire. I think it's a decent hire with a good chance of being fairly successful.